What is going on, everyone? It is college football talk. I am your host, Hunter DeLauder, and today is week 6 preview. Got a lot of action on the board again this week, so really excited to dive into all of that. Um, Apologize for not having a recap episode for week 5. Some time management issues got in the way of that, and so we had to put some stuff ahead of the others. So we're able to dive into that. I'll give a quick thought right here before we get into the preview about Georgia, Bama, and some like two other things. So we're getting into that, but then we're gonna get right into picks, previews, all that. So we got A&M, Missouri to talk about. We got Arkansas, Tennessee, Ole Miss, South Carolina. We got UCF heading to Gainesville, and the Deep South's oldest rivalry kicks off this weekend as well. We're also gonna hand out some best bets. 3-2 last week, continuing to roll. Got a couple more good picks this week and around the country as well. So make sure you guys are subscribing to the channel. Hit that subscribe button below. Like the video as well. If you're new around here, welcome aboard. Love having you here. Hit that subscribe button. It's free. Helps out the show. Helps get more content out there. And if you're new or if you're a reoccurring guest, make sure you're getting some new people to join on. Trying to get that subscriber march up now to 200. So can only do that if I can get you guys to help me out there. And if you're listening on podcast, hit me up on Spotify, College Football Talk with Hunter DeLauder on there, and on the socials, Twitter, DeLauder Hunter, and on Instagram, Hunter.DeLauder83. So without further ado, we're gonna get right into this. Kill that, and I didn't make a header, I guess, but I'll make one real quick. There we go. All right, make that. We'll add that on. All right, so quick week 5 recap. There was a lot of action to happen. We saw UCF turn the ball over and get outplayed by Colorado. Probably the best win Deion's career. So kudos to Colorado. I thought that they would be physically dominated in the trenches, and it was not that. I mean, Colorado's defense stepped up. They've stepped up well all year this year for the most part, but they played really well, and they got a massive win on the road for UCF against UCF. Kentucky goes to Oxford, knocks off Ole Miss. Ole Miss's preseason run was over. They actually had to play a real team, and Mark Stoops and the gang go in there and just show some balls on that 4th down from like their own 19. A deep shot there from Vandergriff. It was a great throw, but holy cow, what a call that was. I mean, you got to know you're probably not going to get the ball back at that point. So you take the shot, you get it, and then you ended up scoring and holding Ole Miss, who had some questionable time management or play calling down the stretch there. Ended up settling for a field goal to try to tie it. Completely missed it wide left, and Wildcats got a massive win. Ole Miss drops out of the top 10 with that loss, so we'll see if they respawn. We're going to talk about them in a little bit here with South Carolina. I mean, they're going to a hornet's nest this weekend, so they're going to have to gear up for that. Let's see. Kansas State knocked around old Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State just looks gross. They can't stop anyone on defense. They can't generate anything in the run game. I thought they actually got a little bit in the run game going early, and then they just completely went away from it. Alan Bowman just isn't the guy, and it's crazy a guy that's in his 7th year still isn't able to elevate his game like that. And we'll see how they go. They respond. They get West Virginia this week. Kansas State. I think they might be on a bye week this week. But and then trying to think if there's anything else. I'm just trying to touch on everything before talking about Georgia, Bama. I think that was really it. Auburn found a new way to turn the ball over. So congratulations there. They found a new way to lose the game. Each week they find a new way. It's kind of fun. They just spin a wheel, and I think it just lands on how they're going to do it. This week, they blew an 11-point 4th quarter lead against Oklahoma, who had a starting freshman quarterback playing. And for the most part, defense for Auburn was playing pretty well and had only allowed one deep shot. Ended up letting up the touchdown there to cut it to 4, I believe was or was it? I forget what the score number was, but it cut the lead within 5. And then all Oklahoma or Auburn still winning. Just all they had to do was not turn the football over. And what does Peyton Thorne do? He throws a pick 6, and they sing Kumbaya as they lost another game. They are 2-3. They're going on the road for the first time this week. They played their first 5 games at home this year, and they went 2-3. And now you have to go on the road for the next 2 weeks, I believe. So that's not how it was supposed to be. They should probably have been 5-0 going into Athens this weekend, but they found new ways to lose against Cal, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. So we'll see how they do there. And then the big one, obviously, Georgia, Alabama, as a tale of two halves. I mean, the Tide came out, curb stomped Georgia right from the get-go. I mean, Georgia came out as flat. I'm trying to think of like an EKG machine when someone's dead, like just flatlined the whole. I mean, out of the gate, they had no answer. They couldn't contain the edge. Milrow was running wild on the outside. There was too many easy guys, just easy throws to be made. Defense was missing tackles, and they had 15 or 16 in total they missed on Saturday. It was terrible. Beck was throwing the ball over, turning it over. Just looked like crap through that first half. I think I tweeted, like, he's just playing. He looks like dog crap right now, to keep it clean here. But, yeah, it just was terrible. And it was really weird to think because of, like, how much you have the bye week to get ready for the game. You have all of this offseason to get ready for a game, and you come out flat like that. Just really weird, really just surprising. I was just kind of just jaw dropped about how unprepared Georgia looked. They missed assignments. Guys running the wrong routes. We're missing blocks. I mean, quarterbacks turning the football over. Coaches are getting out coached by first-year staff. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. 30-7 was at half. I mean, they took a bad safety at the end of the half. They nearly muffed a punt at the end. So it could have been about 10 times worse at the end of the half because Carson Beck about threw his third pick, backed up in his own zone right before that intentional grounding, which would have been a pick six. And then that was Deontay Lawson, I believe, has hand on that. And then right before the end of the half, Anthony Evans muffs a punt inside his own, like, 15, which for sure would have been a touchdown. Thank God he recovered it. But kudos to Alabama. They came out ready to roll. Second half, goodness gracious, they about did everything they could to give it up. And I don't think they were letting their foot off the gas. I mean, they were running trick plays late in the third. I mean, they had a one play. Malachi Starks made a play. It was like an end or like a toss it back to the running back where he had about 5 or 6 guys like ready to block. And Malachi Starks somehow found a way to sneak through and make a tackle because that would have been a touchdown. At least a big giant, probably at least 50 or 60 yard play. I would probably bet it would have been a touchdown. But so, I mean, they weren't letting their foot off the gas. What they were doing, I think Alabama was doing in the fourth quarter, they started not working the clock very well. They were running plays with like 20 plus seconds left on the play clock when they could have just been eating clock. They were doing that. Georgia did a hell of a lot better job at containing the edge, not letting Milrow get outside the pocket on him. He had no real big scrambles in the second half. They really weren't able to run the ball very well outside the pocket. Running backs for Alabama were really stuffed for the most part going up the middle. They got some success on the outside, but for the most part, it was all Milrow. Georgia went to I believe they shifted their defensive scheme a little bit to help out in that department. And then Beck just started tossing them downfield, and they were making plays. Wide receiver stepped up. Arian Smith, Dom Lovett had big games. Dylan Bell had a nice game. Too many drops still from the tight end department. Running game still got to get going some. It's hard to run the ball when you fall behind 28-0. So I can see that, but I still want to see them run the football a little more. Trevor Etienne had one of the biggest plays, though, is the running the ball. 4th down and 1. He gets LT Overton blows up the hole, and he's just waiting for Etienne like 4 yards behind the backfield. And Etienne makes a move that just sends Overton falling on his face. He ends up getting the first down and a couple more, but that was massive. Georgia's ability to convert on 4th down, I think they were 5 of 5 or 6 of 6 on 4th down. It saved the game for them because otherwise, if they don't get 1 or 2 of those, this game's over because they were terrible on 3rd down. Both teams really were, but Georgia started the night 0 for 10, I want to say. was 0 for 9 or 0 for 10, so it was bad. If I'm going to take away from both teams here, Georgia, I'm very proud to see how much they fought back in that second half, because any team could have just laid down and given up about 100. They fought back. They took the lead, but they became, as Kirby Smart said in his post game, there's a video to his team. You had to win all the moments in that second half. One moment short. That's what it was. They took the lead, and then Ryan Williams, I'm not even going to say the age because everyone knows his age. He's just on a different level. Talked about him all the way weeks leading up to this game, how he's just a star in the making. And my goodness, he put on a show Saturday night. Just his way he can just control his body without kind of missing a step. He can stop himself and then just kick it right into like an overdrive. It's video game stuff. It's really impressive to watch. And I'd be very fascinated to see these two teams meet up again, because I would just to see if Georgia would be able to kind of figure out what they did terribly wrong. They have to tackle better, contain the outside better, and just cover two, because that he killed you the biggest one. So very interested to see if they would ever match up, how that would go about it. But certainly lived up to its hype as the game of the year for sure. So that's my quick thoughts. Obviously, both teams are going to be really good. Georgia's got a little bit of a tougher schedule going forward. Alabama, I think they do have to go to Knoxville. They get Missouri. You do have to go to Oklahoma. You get Auburn. So it's a little bit easier of a path. But listen, credit to both teams for showing up. Environment was electric. And, that's just what college football is all about. So, all right. Enough with the week 5 recap. We have week 6 preview to get to. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, because you do not want to miss anything all year long. This is one of the many college cups I have. I just chose this one because I needed coffee. Anyway, it's a Wednesday morning here in beautiful Gainesville, Florida. This is where I'm residing right now. So make sure you guys subscribe, though. Enough of that. And yes, if you can tell, I do have a bad sunburn. I've been questioned about it all week by many people. Bucks game Sunday. Forgot to put sunscreen on. We're recovering. We will rebuild. Anyway, all right, we're going to start, though, in College Station, where the fighting Texas Aggies are going to be – Texas A&M Aggies are the number 25 team. They are hosting the number 9 Missouri Tigers. Over-under right now is at 48.5. A&M is currently a 2-point favorite in this one. And the biggest question for me here – I'm going to pull my notes or iPad. Biggest question for me will be, can Missouri wake up? This is one of the many questions I have. But first, can Missouri wake up? They've sleptwalked the last 2 weeks. They had a bye week this past week. So last 2 games, though, against Power 4 opponents, they've sleptwalked. They've looked stagnant on offense. They've stumbled out of the gate early on defense. They were able to lock it down later in the game as the game goes on, but they haven't looked very dominant, how we thought they had looked first 2 weeks leading into the season. Last 2 games against Power 4 opponents, they're averaging 28.5 points a game. They're giving up, though, 24 points a game, and they're giving up almost 311 yards a game. So they're giving up stuff. Like, is the defense as good as we think it is? Maybe is that what we need to ask ourselves? Are we being fooled a little bit by the stats saying that they are the 8th scoring defense in the country, that they're 5th against the pass, they're 19th in rushing defense? Or is that being fooled because of how well they played early on in the year against really bad opponents? Because last two opponents they've had, Boston College and Vanderbilt, defense has looked on its heels some. And the offense hasn't looked as crisp and clean and as efficient. So how do I decipher that? What I think it is that, yeah, they're not as good as we thought they were, and that they're just kind of coasting by. Or B, they just haven't found that gear yet. And maybe this is the week to do it. All right. And my second question now will be this game. Can Marcel Reed keep rolling against a good Missouri defense? Talk about how good that Missouri defense is. Now, was that a flash in the pan with playing poor teams? Like, Murray State and Buffalo, or are they actually good? And I think they are actually a pretty solid front. You've seen the last few weeks, like they struggle some out of the gate, or in Vandy's case, pretty much all game. But like Boston College, they struggled out of the gate, but then they were able to settle in, get some stops, and hold it down. I mean, Boston College game, they held a 6-point lead for most of the second half. So they're able to make stops when they need to. That's led by Johnny Walker up front. A solid back end, obviously 8th in scoring defense, 5th in passing yards, like we talked about. Marcel Reed then they attack that running defense. Now, the rushing defense is pretty stout. 19th in the country, 91 yards they're giving up pretty much on average. Marcel Reed needs to use his legs in this. Le'Veon Moss has to be able to run the ball effectively. They've got to be able to control the clock, I think, in this one, and just run the ball. They got to establish some sort of presence because you don't want Marcel Reed getting into a drop back contest against this Missouri defense. Now, Marcel Reed against conference opponents, so Florida and Arkansas, he has not turned the football over, which is really good. He has 4 touchdowns. He has over 340 yards passing. He's using his legs effectively. It's really good. He needs to get his guys involved, though. Noah Thomas, Cyrus Allen, got to have a big game. Noah Thomas has got to look for in the red zone. They've got to capitalize when they're in the red zone. Keep the offense going. Now, we talk about how good Missouri is stopping the run. And we talk about how A&M needs to run the football really well. I mean, they're averaging 230 yards a game, over 230 yards a game, which is really good because Le'Veon Moss needs to be able to run the ball. I keep kind of just repeating myself there, but I mean, that's how big of an importance is because especially with a younger quarterback, if you can just be able to run the ball, establish some sort of line of scrimmage game, it pays off dividends. Extends drives, keeps time of possession on your side, gives your defense a chance to rest, and you're able to create room for deep shots down the field, intermediate deep shots for Thomas, Allen, whoever else you're throwing the ball to. And can Brady Cook step up on the road? He's been so-so this year. He's been okay. They came into this year expecting him to be that difference maker. You know, he's back his senior year. You know, you lose Schrager in the backfield. Now you get Luther Burden back. Theo Weiss is back. But you're the guy. Like, we need you. You're the guy. You've been the guy. But can you now elevate yourself to being, like, one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the country? So far, he hasn't been that to this point. 68% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns. Again, just it's been okay numbers against Boston College and Vanderbilt. This is an A&M defense that is susceptible through the air. They are 64th against the pass, but they will turn the football over. They will force turnovers. They have 16 they are ranked 16th. They have 7 interceptions this year, and Marcus Radcliffe is tied for 3rd in the country with 3 of them. So they are opportunistic. Go look on the Florida game. Tips and overthrows will kill Missouri in this game. It will absolutely decimate them. It's going to give A&M chances to pick them off. It's going to give A&M short field position, and it's going to keep that crowd in it, which is already going to be in it with being the 12th man. But you let that crowd just get energized even more, it's going to be a long day. And like I talked about with Brady Cook, they got to get the playmakers going. Theo Weiss, Luther Burden. When you need to be able to win on the road, you need to be able to have your playmakers ready to roll. And this is the kind of game. It's Missouri's first test on the road. They like Auburn have not left home. So this will be their first test on the road. You've got to be able to get your playmakers going early. Luther Burden, Theo Weiss, these guys are experienced veteran guys who know how to step up in these big games. But can you get them the ball enough? It can't be just singling out one guy all game long, because then that'll lead to trouble. So can you able to distribute out enough, but also make sure, like, on critical downs, like, you're looking to those guys where, like, I need you to get 5, 6, 7, 8 yards. Are you going to be able to get it? So definitely going to have to do that. As far as game prediction goes, I kind of like A&M in this one. I think A&M's going to get a win here, 27-24. I just think home field is going to play a big factor in this game. I think they're going to be able to run the ball enough. And if Marcel Reed can keep turnovers down and not turn the football over, it actually just in general, because he hasn't turned it over yet, I think that's going to be big time. I think this Missouri team is a little bit more pretend than they are contenders, and I just I haven't seen enough from Missouri to give me confidence. Maybe they figured something out in the bye week leading into this game, but give me the Aggies to win here. Close, but I think Marcel Reed in this offense steps up. There is a chance Connor Wegman does play, but I would still roll with Reed. You're winning football games with him. Don't take him out now. If he's struggling, then and if Wegman's available, go back to Wegman. For now, go to Reed. Stick with Reed until anything else changes. All right, moving on to Ole Miss, South Carolina. Take a drink real quick. Got 2 drinks today, and they're much needed. Anyway, so Ole Miss, number 12 in the clan. They're coming off a loss I'm going to restart. Number 12 ranked Ole Miss heads to Columbia, South Carolina, following the loss in Oxford this past weekend against Kentucky. They're looking to rebound. They are currently a 9-point favorite, and the over-under is 53.5. However, they are heading into a hornet's nest. I alluded to it earlier. Williams-Brice Stadium is going to be on fire, as it was for the LSU game. South Carolina is coming off a bye. Ole Miss has to play 7 straight games before they get a bye week. So, very much, let's see how they respond after a very physical game against Kentucky. Remember, this is really their second game of the year because the preseason ended 4 weeks or after the first 4 weeks. Last week, they only had 17 points scored, just over 350 total yards. They turned the ball over. Jackson Dart looked okay at 261 yards. He threw a touchdown on a 4th down play, which was kind of sweet. But they just looked really stagnant on offense. They weren't spreading the ball out at all. It was the Trey Harris show, and that was it. Juice Wells was not a factor at all. They've got to be able to spread the ball out more. Trey Harris is like the only guy they're throwing to on offense. Him and Priestcorn. So, I mean, they've got to be able to spread it out because defense is just going to start picking up on that. And once they single that guy out, or once they kind of maybe throw an extra body on Harris, I mean, is he going to just still go to him? And then, or is he going to be able to kind of get to the other guys? I don't know. Hopefully. This is a really big week for Ole Miss because a lot of people are thinking now, like, this is not a team that we thought they were. This is a pretender team. You know, we get caught in this trap every year with them, how, they put up these gaudy stats in the first few weeks of the year against inferior opponents. And then they play real teams, and then they get bum rushed. And that's how it looked. Kentucky, I mean, Brock Vandergriff was the better quarterback for about the entire game on Saturday. And that can't happen. Jackson Dart did not come back to get outplayed by Brock Vandergriff. So you've got to be able to play better. I think that there's room against South Carolina's defense that they're going to be able to have success against. However, the O-line must play well against this defensive line for South Carolina. This is going to be one of the best defensive line Ole Miss has played to this point. South Carolina is 7th in sacks. They average almost 4 a game. They have 14 on the year. Kyle Kennard has 5.5, but combine him and Dylan Stewart off the edge. 8 sacks total, 18 total tackles by themselves. They are wreckers up front. Turn on the LSU game. See how big of a game record they were. Turn on the Kentucky game. See what they did. This defensive line creates havoc no matter who they're playing. LSU, as good as they are offensive line-wise, struggled mightily all game against South Carolina. And that's one of the best offensive line units in the country. Could not stop him for what it was worth, for anything. And that was credit more Garrett Nussmeier being able to make plays still under duress all game long. So is Ole Miss going to be able to do it? Ole Miss is 85th in sacks allowed, though. They're giving up almost 2 a game. 10 already this year. So they're having a hard time protecting Dart. Now you're going up against one of the best defensive lines in the country. That's not very good if you're looking to find ways to push the ball down the field, run an Ole Miss style defense or offense. Ole Miss's offense is set up to stay ahead of the chains, now not be a negative long distance downs. If you're giving up sacks, that completely changes everything. They got to be able to run the football. I think Henry Parrish is going to have to step up a big game here, quiet the crowd some, just establish some sort of run game, because again, you do not want to get into a passing drop back passing game against this defensive line. This defensive line will make life hell for 60 minutes if you do that, or more, however long the game needs to be played. But Henry Parrish is averaging, or he's over 480 yards a game, or on the season. He does have 8 touchdowns scored, so he's getting into the end zone quite often. But this Ole Miss offense is 17th in the run. And as good as South Carolina is rushing the passer, they do struggle some stopping the run. 104 yards a game they're giving up. So there's room to work with. Can Ole Miss take it? They're going to have to, because you cannot get it, like I said, you cannot get into a drop back passing game against this defensive front. Next thing is Lenore Sellers going to be able to play? He's questionable heading into the week. Him and Rocket Sanders are. It's gearing towards them probably being able to give it a go. He's going to have to play, I think, for Ole Miss to have it, or for South Carolina to have a chance to win this game. I just don't think Robbie Ashford's the guy that's going to get a win against Ole Miss. If Lenore Sellers does play, well, he's going to have to find a way to use his legs, play to his strengths. It's going to be tough because Ole Miss is first against the run. They're only giving up just over 46 yards a game. We talk about how good South Carolina's defensive line is. I mean, Ole Miss has got some boys up front too. Walter Nolan, J.J. Regis, Princely Umen-Mielen. Princely, we're going to call him. And then Jared Ivey. I mean, these boys up front, they don't give up a whole lot. And, I mean, the stats back it up there. Now, where you can get them is in the pass. Is Lenore Sellers' arm going to be able to beat them? That would be the next question, because he played a pretty solid game against LSU, but LSU's defense isn't the best. This will probably be the best secondary South Carolina is going to be faced to this point. Will they be able to have success against that? Trey Amos is in the back end. He's going to lead that front. Will they be able to, can they attack him? I mean, or is he going to find ways to exploit a weakness? Maybe Ole Miss is, I mean, to be all fair also, you saw how Vandergriff and the Kentucky offense was able to move the ball down the field when they had the chance to. They wasn't perfect all day. Did no stretch. But when they needed to make plays, they did make them. And I think that's more just Ole Miss secondary that hasn't been tested to this point, really. And you saw what happens when they play a mediocre to just an average quarterback. Like, I mean, there's plays to be made. Can Lenore Sellers find them? Again, though, you're going to have to be able to run the football some. Rocket Sanders is going to have to play a big game in this part. Going to have to be able to control the line of scrimmage. This game is going to be won and lost between who can run the football effectively enough. Because whoever gets caught dropping back, passing the most, and turning the football over is going to lose the game. We talked about how well that defensive front is for Ole Miss. And they're going to be able to get pressure on Lenore Sellers. South Carolina ranks 131st in sacks allowed. They're giving up almost 4 a game, which is even more critical why Lenore Sellers, if he plays, is big, because he's going to have to be able to use his feet to get out of the pocket, make plays on his own, because there's going to be probably a lot of off-schedule throws and plays that are going to have to be made by him if South Carolina wants to win this game. But I just think, as far as prediction goes, I just think the stats are too big in favor of Ole Miss for me not to take them. I think this is maybe a closer game, but Ole Miss, I think, pulls ahead late. I think Ole Miss wins 30-17. They're going to be able to bounce back. They're going to have to be able to protect Dart. If they can protect Dart, they're going to be able to make plays in that. There's plays to be made in that secondary. So give me the Rebels to bounce back. If they lose this, I mean, I don't know where you go from there. Because with all the off-the-field antics, with the coaching carousel, with Florida and Lane Kiffin, I don't know. This is a team mostly made of transfers. Not a lot of high school guys on this team. At least the starting 22. You start losing games, Does that chemistry, that foundation that you built, does it start to crack? Where are the weaknesses going to start showing even more? It's going to be, can the team rally when you haven't been around each other very often? It's going to be, those are questions that are going to have to be asked if they do lose this game. I just don't think they will. So it's going to be a really good crowd. If South Carolina does win, they're going to have to be able to make plays that are off schedule plays. They're going to have to stay ahead of the chains. No negative plays. You cannot be stuck in second, third long where you're just trying to get into reasonable spot to maybe make it a fourth and manageable. You can't do that. You gotta have to stay ahead of the chains. You're gonna have to make plays when they're there. Missed opportunities are gonna kill them if that happens. I just think Ole Miss is the better team here. There's a reason why they're national championship, contenders for games like this. They got to be able to show that they can go on the road and effectively take control of the game. Moving on. Speaking of on the road for national championship contenders, drink coffee. The Tennessee Volunteers, the fourth-ranked Tennessee Volunteers, head to Woo Pig Suey Land in Fayetteville, take on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Tennessee coming off a bye week. Arkansas coming off a tough loss in Jerry World against the Texas A&M Aggies. 21-17 that game was. But, can Tennessee – there's really just two big questions in this game. Can Tennessee slow down Arkansas? Arkansas, Bobby Petrino in that offense. I mean, hey, they can roll here. Arkansas, 27th in the pass. They're at almost 300 yards a game. They can run the ball effectively. They're not turning the football over. However, can they keep Taylon Green healthy or up front, standing up pretty much? I'm getting really jacked up my words right now. It's driving me crazy right now. We're gonna bounce back here. Anyway, so Taylon Green needs to be, in a clean pocket enough to make plays. The problem is South Carolina or Tennessee can get after the quarterback, and Arkansas has a tough time protecting the quarterback. 94th in sacks allowed. They're giving up almost 3 a game. And Tennessee's defense is 4th against the pass, 2nd against the run, and 2nd in scoring defense. They're only giving up about 7 points a game. I mean, they didn't give up the first touchdown until Oklahoma late in that game of the year. So they're going to have to be able to run the ball. Jaquinda Jackson's going to have a big game. Bobby Petrino is going to have to scheme something up here. I still think there's plays to be made in that secondary against Tennessee because I just don't think Tennessee's secondary, kind of like Ole Miss, has been tested at this point. To be all respect to Oklahoma's offense, but that's just not an offense that was probably ever going to threaten Tennessee's secondary. This is a secondary that I think that will be tested in this game. I talked about it a couple weeks ago with Tennessee after the NC State game. I was looking at the schedule. I had these 2 road games. I said Oklahoma is going to be the one that's going to test the offense as far as Oklahoma is going to be the best defense you're going to play to that point. And for the most part, now, did Tennessee probably take their foot off the gas in the second half? Yes. But I will say, Oklahoma was able to keep the big plays for the most part in check. They were able to get after Amaliava. They forced a couple turnovers, and they got pressure on him. I mean, Oklahoma's defense is very good. But I also said now the Arkansas game is going to be the first one I think that this defense is really going to get tested in. Because Arkansas could put up points. They will score points at will on you if they allow them. Go turn on the Oklahoma State game. I mean, go turn on the Auburn game. I mean, did they turn the ball over a few times? Yeah, but they were able to make plays when they need to. Turn on the A&M game. There were plays to be made in that game that they just couldn't capitalize on, that they could have won that game. I mean, there's a world out there where Arkansas is undefeated right now. And now you get Tennessee at home. This is a game that, for Sam Pittman's sake, I mean, if you can win this one, that would be an all-time job saver, just morale booster. Just think that they let the Oklahoma State game out of their hands. And then they let the A&M one. They just couldn't capitalize when there was plays to be made. This is a chance now for Arkansas to rebound get a all-time win here. But it's going to have to be able to they're going to have to stop Tennessee offensively, though, because Arkansas is not very good against the pass. They're okay against the run. They're giving up just under 100 yards a game in that department. And Tennessee wants to run the ball first. Dylan Sampson's tied for second in the land in touchdowns scored, and he's averaging almost 7 yards a carry. But it's just tough for me because Arkansas's defense is not as good as theirs. They're going to have to create turnovers. They're going to have to get pressure on Amaliava. But will they? I don't know if they will or not. And it's eating at me because I would love to take Arkansas on this one. Just from the standpoint of I love upsets. I think we didn't get enough last year. So any chance you can get a top 10 team on the ropes, I mean, that's always exciting. Keeps the parity alive. But I don't know. I just think that Tennessee's defense is really good, especially up front, and that linebacker room led by Keenan Peely. They're going to be able to get pressure on Taylor Green, and I just don't know if Green is going to be able to stand in the pocket all day long and just find ways to maybe exploit a secondary that hasn't been tested. Now, if he can get out the pocket and start making plays on his own and maybe turn should be a sack or a loss of 2 or 3 into a 5-6 yard pickup using his legs, that's something to keep an eye on. I think you saw Michael Hawkins a little bit do it late in that game. Can Taylor Green do it? I think Bobby Petrino might have something planned up in that department. But again, Quentin Jackson, Taylor Green, they're going to have big games. They're going to have to be able to somehow keep him upright for the most part to push the ball down the field because this is going to be a throwing game. They're going to have to throw the football. Can they? Is going to be a question. I just don't think they will have enough success doing so. Tennessee's going to win this one 34-20. They maybe score early. It might be close for the most part, but Tennessee's going to bowl ahead late. That's just how I feel. And Tennessee truly is a national title contender. Like they've looked like they will take care of business. But they have had terrible luck last few times playing Arkansas. And maybe that just looms around them this time. And Arkansas can get a massive win. This is the ABC primetime game, too. So Woo Pig Suey's going to be hooting and hollering. They're going to be calling the hogs down there in Fayetteville. So forgot to mention, though, Tennessee is a 13.5-point favorite and over under 59.5. So my score prediction does have them covering. But will they? That's a great question. Moving on to Auburn at number 5, Georgia. This is the Deep South's oldest rivalry. It's the 134th meeting these two teams will 134th time these two teams will be taking the field against each other. Georgia leads the all-time series 64-56. There are 8 ties in that. But nonetheless, Georgia is the current leader in the series. The first meeting 1892 back on February 20th. So it planned for quite a while. That's the reason why it's called the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Some fun facts here. Since this game is in Athens, because Auburn just decides they can't play football right in Athens for the most part. So far in the 21st century, Auburn has not scored more than 10 points in Athens since 2009. Auburn has not won in Athens since 2005 and just twice this century. So they struggle mightily when they play in the Classic City and Dooley Field, Sanford Stadium. So will it change this week? Well, let's talk about Georgia first. So, Georgia, can they start fast? Or will Auburn get them stuck in the mud like all these other teams have so far? I mean, Georgia has looked pitiful in the first half compared to second half of the games they've played in. First half offense against Power 4 teams, they're averaging 5.3 points a game, and they only have 16 total points scored. Second half, they're averaging almost 21 points a game and 65 in total. Auburn is only giving up about 18 points a game. You take away the turnovers for Auburn. I'm going to talk about turnovers in a second, but you take away the turnovers, it's a pretty good group. It's just they turn the football over too much, and then they find ways to lose games. They're not a team has found that winning recipe yet. They just don't know how to win. And that maybe has something to do with turnovers. Maybe it has something to do just overall, just the personnel they have. They just don't have the guys that are ready to step up and say, I'm gonna win this game for us. Now, as far as defense goes, though, for Auburn, they're 67th in the pass, They're 48th against the run. They're only giving up 121 yards a game. Georgia has struggled mightily running the football. They're only running the ball for about 127 yards a game. They're like 102nd against in the run. Rushing offense, 102nd. Trevor Etienne's their leading rusher with only 212 yards on the season. Got to be able to run the football for Georgia. But the biggest stat for me here is third downs. Bama put Georgia in hell on third downs. Now, Georgia was able to capitalize on fourth down, but third down-wise, Auburn 55th in the land in third down defense. Georgia's third down offense is 107th. They've only converted 16 times on 48 attempts on third down. That's terrible. This is one of the best third down offenses in the country last year. They're one of the worst offenses on third down now this year. It's really weird to see because for the most part, most of the player personnel is back as far outside of Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, and maybe that's just big enough. Those safety nets were big. It's a big enough loss where now like you seeing regression in the offense as far as like converting on these third downs. But it also has something to do with they're not being able to run the footballs effectively. So these third downs where they lived last year in about 3rd and 3 to 3rd and 5. They're not doing that this year. They're stuck now in 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. I mean, all the way back up to like 3rd and 11. Like they're stuck. They're backing themselves up because they can't run the football very well. So they're going to have to be able to run the football to set up third down and manageables. If they can do that, it's going to be a long day, I think, for Auburn because I think Georgia's going to be able to convert on those. Georgia's 52nd in scoring. They're getting about 32 a game. Auburn's like middle of the pack. So we'll see how that goes. Now, talking about turnovers. So Auburn's going to have to get some turnovers. Auburn's 93rd, though, in turnovers gained. And Georgia's only lost 4 all year, and that came from last game. So they're going to have to create havoc. They're going to have to turn the football, make Beck turn the football over. He did turn the ball over, I want to say twice last year against Auburn. So they're going to have to capitalize on turnovers. They were able to last year, and that's why that game was so close. But will they this year? I mean, they may have to create. I think they're going to have to force at least 3 turnovers in this game to even have a chance. That's how big of it, it feels margin-wise and how small the margin of victory is for Auburn. Like, they've got to be able to probably force 3 or 4 turnovers, make it ugly and gross, get the crowd out of it, and score touchdowns. They're going to have to score touchdowns. But staying on the turnover side, like I said, they had to stop shooting themselves in the foot, though, first. They are 132nd in turnovers lost this year. They have 15 already this year. They're on pace for 35 turnovers lost this year, which is 6 more than they had last year. Peyton Thorne has 6 interceptions thrown by himself. They've thrown 9 interceptions as a group. 6 fumbles have been lost. Georgia has only forced 2 turnovers this year interceptions at least. So, I mean, there's going to be plays to be made, I think, for Georgia because of how just the offense is run for Auburn. RPO offense is how they're going to run they're going to operate things, which means that there's going to be tips and overthrows available because if the defense shows you one look pre-snap and then they switch to something different, I mean, that's going to fall back on the quarterback to make a decision. And if he makes the wrong one, it's going to cost him. And so we'll see if that happens this week. I mean, I feel like it's just bound to happen. I think Auburn at this point, I mean, they're just bound to turn the football over at least twice a game, it feels like. I mean, they played a relatively clean game for the most part last week against Oklahoma. I mean, they had 11-point lead the fourth quarter. In the biggest moment, though, they turned the football over and ended up being a pick 6 and cost them mightily. So if they can somehow not turn the football over, this is going to be, I feel like, a closer game than maybe people think it is. But I just don't see it happens. I mean, they're so bound to shoot themselves in their own foot that why do I think anything's going to change? I mean, this is a Hugh Freeze offense that Hugh Freeze offense is just historically just turn the football over. It's really weird. I think Brooks Austin came out with a stat. I'm going to find it real quick here because I have Twitter up. Let's see here. Type in Brooks Austin. Came out with a really good stat about Hugh Freeze and his turnover issues. Let me see here. Here we go. Number of seasons with turnover of 20 or more turnovers as a head coach. Hugh Freeze has 8. The next highest was Saban with 1. Or excuse me, Kalen DeBoer with 2. So, I mean, it's just bound to happen. And these offenses, these RPO offenses that Hugh Freeze runs, they're just bound to turn the football over. It's at a high rate, and which means that it's going to happen. They just have to figure a way to almost build around it in a sense, which sucks because it just kind of puts you in a hole out of the gate. And a lot of times they're not able to respond because Auburn realistically should be 5-0 in this heading into this game. But they've found ways to turn the football. 4 turnovers against Cal, 4 turnovers against Arkansas, a pick 6 late in the game against Oklahoma. There it is. I mean, 1 score loss against Cal, 1 score loss against Oklahoma, 1 score loss against Oklahoma, 1 score loss against Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Cal. There you go. Turnovers will kill you. Turnovers will eat you alive in this league and just college football over in general. So, first time on the road for Auburn. But again, if they could stop the run defensively, force Georgia to throw, that's how some teams have just been able to do it. I mean, Auburn's got to make it sloppy. They've got to be able to make Georgia one-dimensional. But will that be enough? We'll see. I think Trevor Etienne's going to have a big game in this game. I think he will. I think they're going to finally be able to run the football in this game. We'll see. I think they will. And I think that's why Georgia's going to win this game. But before I do that, we're talking about offense. I think the big spot to be is they're going to have to get that receiving core going for Auburn. Lambert Smith, Coleman, Simmons, going to have big games. Georgia struggled tackling. They really struggled. They 15 tackles missed against Alabama, 15 I think or 16 against Kentucky. They missed. They missed like 8 or 10 against Clemson. There's plays to be made if you're Auburn after contact. Can they do that? Jarquez Hunter's going to have the big game. I think Peyton Thorne's going to have to use his legs some. He burned Georgia last year using his legs. Can he in this game? I think Georgia's going to be playing with their hair on fire in this game. Especially you follow the loss against Bama. This is the worst time you could have been playing a Georgia team following a loss like that, but of how well they played in that second half. If there was another quarter of play against Bama, I think Georgia wins that game. I think that's how well they were playing. It just ended up they just ran out of time and threw the back-breaking interception in the end zone at the end of the game. But this is a terrible time to be playing them. It's homecoming weekend too. Give me the Dogs big. I think Georgia wins 40-10. Auburn keeps that streak alive, though, not scoring more than 10. I mean, at this point, I think Georgia would cover that line. I would stay away from that just from a backdoor cover standpoint. But, yeah, give me the Dogs in this one big. I think they're going to be able to build off of this. I think you saw something in Beck in that second half. Just let it loose. Get your guys involved. And just have fun out there. Like, don't give a crap about whatever anybody thinks. One moment at a time. Take the moments, win them, and go get what's yours. I think they will get it right this next 2 weeks against Auburn, Mississippi State, and then they have the big one to go to Austin to play Texas. So this is a get-right game for Georgia, and comes at the hands of Auburn. So congrats to Auburn for being the lucky victim of the week. Moving on to our final headlining game. We got UCF and UF. This is mainly for my UF audience out there. So welcome. If you're not new, if you're not a recurring guest here, or you're not new, welcome back. If you're new, hit the subscribe button. Trying to get the subscriptions up to 200 now. We're at 108. So just hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. UCF -3 in the spread department. 61.5 is the over-under. This could be a shootout because neither defense is very good. Well, I'm going to raise that. Florida's overall defense is terrible. But UCF's passing defense is just as terrible. Run defense, they're okay. So maybe there's that. But UF can't really run the football very effectively anyway. So, all right, let's dive into it. So the biggest question here, and it was a topic that I brought up against Colorado, because Colorado was equally as bad, at least statistically. But UF has showed that they can't stop this. Can UF stop the run? There's your game right here. You can forget every other question asked. This is the game right here. With how bad UCF looked last week, they're still ranked second in the country in running football. They average 326 yards a game. They have 14 total rushing touchdowns on the year. RJ Harvey versus that Florida front. There's your game. You want keys to the game? There you go. 7th in rushing touchdowns. He has 525 yards on the year. He has 8 touchdowns rushed. Florida is 109th against the run. They're giving up almost 200 yards a game, and they've allowed 7 touchdowns on the ground. You saw what Marcel Reed was able to do and Le'Veon Moss were able to do. Le'Veon Moss had over 100 yards against Florida. You saw Mississippi State had success. They had 240 yards running the football against that Florida front. Mississippi State is terrible. Terrible. And they had almost 500 yards of total offense against that defense. This is a defense for Florida that has struggled mightily all year. They can't stop anyone. Here's your stats for you. Let's find them. UF, 112th in turnovers gained. They're 97th, I want to say, in the pass, stopping the pass. And like I said, they're 109th in run defense. I mean, there you go. But between RJ Harvey, KJ Jefferson's welcome back to the Swamp. Went there last year with Arkansas, used his legs effectively, and beat them. Did I take overtime? Yeah. But guess what? Rocket Sanders was also there. Ended up being the game-winning touchdown run against him. I mean, Florida's defense has historically, just recently, been terrible against the run, and I don't see it changing this week. Now, where UF can have success is through the air. They've got to have to throw the football. I just don't think they're going to be able to run the ball effectively enough because UCF's 11th against the run. They're giving up 80 yards a game, but they're 106th against the pass. 251 yards a game. You saw what Shedeur Sanders did last week against him. You saw what TCU did against him. Like, there will be plays to be made. Can they do it? And I think Graham Mertz is efficient enough, and DJ Lagway is efficient enough. There will be plays to be made. Will they take them, though? They're going to be without Eugene Wilson again. Eugene Wilson's probably going to be out for the next few weeks. He had surgery on that knee. It was a minor surgery, but he's still going to be out, which means you're going to have Chimere Dike, Elijah Badger, Aiden Mizell. They're going to have to step up again. Get the tight end group going. Boardingham. Like, they're going to have to find ways to create plays down the field, stretch this UCF defense, and attack that secondary. But they need to run the football a little bit. Montrell Johnson's been held in check for the most part this year. Him and Treyon Webb. Can they run the football well? To be determined. UF's 55th against in scoring offense. They're scoring almost 32 points a game, which is good. And they're 30th in the pass. But, you assume that this two quarterback system they're going to be running is still going to be in check. I hate it. I just think it's stupid. Just pick a guy and run with him. I think Mertz should be the guy just full time. But they choose to do something differently. That's Billy Napier's thing, not mine. And can UF force enough turnovers, though, going back to defense? Because UF's 112th, like I said, in turnovers gained. They only have 3 on the year. And UCF doesn't turn the football over a lot. Now, Colorado got them to turn the football over a lot last week. They had 4. Can UF do that, replicate it? I think that's the only way UF's going to win this game. Florida just isn't good enough physically. Isn't going to be physically good enough defensively to stop UCF. And if UCF's just able to run the football and milk the clock, I know KJ Jefferson's not the greatest quarterback, but he's going to be able to make plays down the field. So, using his legs or throwing the football. And especially, I watched Marcel Reed go in there. Is Marcel Reed the best quarterback in the country? No. Is he a first-year starting quarterback? Yeah. What did he do against that defense? He shredded them to pieces. I'm just saying, there's plays to be made on both sides of the football. Florida will have their chances. Can they do it? Florida has really been hurt down the field shots, overthrowing guys. They cannot do that in this game. When there's a guy that's open, let's say Elijah Badger's open, 20 yards down the field, cannot miss him. Can't miss him. There's been a few times this year that they've had guys that would have been touchdowns and they've overthrown him. Cannot miss those chances. And Florida needs to stay ahead of the chains. They fall behind they fall behind too much in the in downs, and then they get set up in a third down and 6, 7, 8, and they're just not good enough to move the football effectively. So gonna have to do that. I think Florida's also gonna be able to score first, stay out ahead stay ahead because they're not a team built to come back. They're just not. That's just not how the offense is run. They're a run-first offense that wants to, get a lot of guys in motion, do jet sweeps, end arounds, and just they're not a push the ball down the field type team. They just don't have the personnel to do that. That's just not how the offense is run. So if they fall behind 10, 13 nothing out of the gate, where do they go? Who steps up? If they're able to get out front now, let's say it's a 10-7 game for the most part, but they're winning, they're able to control the clock, control what they want to do offensively, then you're in good shape. I just don't think it's the case. I think it's a back and forth type game. The over-under 61.5. UCF's a 3-point favorite. I just think the Knights are going to be able to bounce back here. Call it a look ahead maybe, because these two teams don't play each other often. They haven't played since 2021. But give me UCF to win this one. It's going to be a tough place. Swamp's going to be rowdy and raucous. It's going to be a Saturday night game on SEC Network. But I just think UF is not good enough defensively to stop anyone. And this is this is the second best running offense statistically going into your building Saturday night. And they're not going to be able to stop them. They're not going to be able to stop them. And you might look up in the end of the first half and be like, Florida only has 150 yards in total offense. Why? Well, they've only had like 3 or 4 drives. I mean, they never got the ball back because they couldn't stop anyone. I mean, this could be a game. It's either going to be UCF's going to be going in half up like 20-7, or it'll be like a 10-10 game kind of game. That's how I feel in this. So, but I think UCF's going to make enough plays offensively. They're going to be able to make enough stops defensively. It's not going to be pretty because UF will have their chances. But give me the Knights 31-27. I think KJ Jefferson and Gus Malzahn get a big win on the road. And UF has to figure out what to do next. Anyway, all right. We're going to move on now to Around the Country here as we round out today's episode. So, as we do for both episodes, so Around the Country is just we go around the country, and we get in our plane and we fly around and take a look. So, on preview days, we like to look around what other games are going on this weekend that maybe aren't the headliners, but we need to keep an eye on. For vice versa, for recaps, we go around, not the headlining games, but we see, whoa, such and such did what? We got to give everyone their fair share. Shout them out. This is the shout out segment. So Friday, Michigan State heads to Oregon. Syracuse is at UNLV. How about UNLV can stay undefeated? It's a race, I feel like, at this point between them and Boise State for that group of 5 spot. So those two teams play each other later on this year. So that is a sneaky collision game. Keep an eye on that one. And by the way, UNLV looks a lot better at quarterback since their first quarterback left because he wanted more money. So they might have upgraded. Saturday now, West Virginia heads to Stillwater, take on Oklahoma State. Both teams, West Virginia building off a win against Kansas. They went on the bye week. Now they go to Oklahoma State. Can they run the football effectively enough? C.J. Donaldson and White in the backfield. You have Garrett Green using his legs. There will be plays to be made. Oklahoma State's defense is just not good against really virtually stopping anyone. So, and can Ollie Gordon get going? He had one of the best games of his career against West Virginia last year. He had over 200 yards rushing. Can he find a way to get going this week against a West Virginia defense that's so-so offensively? If Alan Bowman can figure himself out, there will be plays made against that secondary. That secondary is not very good. They are a bend but don't break secondary, but they can certainly break if they need to. I mean, if there's good enough quarterback, they will break. I mean, look what Pitt did at the end of the game. So SMU at Louisville, both teams, sneaky ACC game here. So SMU 4-1 on the year. That one loss was out of conference to BYU, and everyone's losing to BYU right now. So Rhett Lashley's got his boys turned around. Remember week 0, how ugly it was against Nevada, and everyone kind of just pushed him to the side. And then they lost, and it was like, okay, well, these guys, we're not worried about these guys. They're 4-1 now. And so Now they go to Louisville. Louisville trying to bounce back after that tough one against Notre Dame. Louisville, Miami, and Clemson right now are like the top 3 in the race to get to Charlotte. SMU is on the precipice of maybe getting to the door. If they win this, though, they might not just be knocking on the door. They might be trying to kick the door in. So, sneaky good ACC game there. Army, shout out the Black Knights. We are a pro Black Knights podcast. Does Jeff Monken and the Black Knights are just rolling at this point. They go to Tulsa. They're 3-0 in conference play right now. We're talking about UNLV and Boise State. Army and Navy they're undefeated, both of them. Navy's got Air Force this weekend. But Army at Tulsa, I think Army's going to be able to win. They're 11-point favorite. I actually like them as one of our best bets. They're able to control the clock, and they're damn near perfect in the red zone. They've scored a touchdown on every red zone possession except for one, and it was a field goal. So they're scoring when they need to, and they're able to control the clock. I mean, that's how you do things. Iowa is at Iowa State. Nope, excuse me. They already played each other. Iowa is at Ohio State, and I think Ohio State. I keep saying Iowa State. Ohio State is going to be able to win this game. I think they're going to handily take care of business. Maybe Iowa keeps it ugly and just makes enough plays when they need to, but I just don't see how that offense is going to be able to be functional enough against a stout elite defense that Ohio State has. So give me the Buckeyes there. Indiana, Kurt Cignetti and the 5-0 Indiana Hoosiers at Northwestern on the lake. 2 touchdown favorites. Will they keep it rolling? Just saying. I think Indiana will. What a first year I had them as one of the bottom tier teams in the Big Ten. They're proving me wrong. When would get them to bowl eligibility? Week 6, we're already 6-0. Hey, love it. Speaking of undefeated teams, Rutgers fighting Shianos. And the boys from Piscataway head to Nebraska to take on a Nebraska Cornhusker team that it wasn't pleasant to watch. It was pretty ugly, but they got a win last week on the road to Purdue. But now they're back home, and now they welcome an undefeated Rutgers team. Some sneaky good team games here in the Big Ten. Number 15, Clemson is at FSU. I expect Clemson to go in here and roll. Brock Glenn's going to get to start for Florida State. Doesn't change anything for me. Clemson has found a gear now offensively. It's really impressive to see how bad they looked from week 1 to now where they are. I mean, they are steamrolling opponents, leaving no doubt. And they're quietly, with Miami's little lull here, quietly just heading back up to reason why they are still one of the top teams in the ACC and contending to be the ACC, champion again. Number 10, Michigan at Washington. We got a national title rematch in week 6. And guess what? Washington's a favorite in this game. The top 10 team on the road is not the favorite. What does that tell me? It tells me that the quarterback play for Michigan still stinks. And now they're going up against a Washington team that has really good quarterback play. They just got to finish in the red zone. They're terrible in the red zone offensively. But Will Rogers has found his groove again. And I think they're going to be able to take care of business in that game. Is it an upset because Washington's favored? I don't know. But they are beating the number 10 team. But they're not. But they're the favorites. I don't know. And then number 8, Miami at Cal. Game day is going to be here. It's going to be like 6 a.m. when that game day starts. This game doesn't start till 10:30 Eastern time. Miami should have lost last week. We didn't even talk about that. That was a catch. Well, I'm back. When you on the field, when you call it a touchdown, it's ruled a touchdown. And then you go to replay for over 6 minutes and you try to break it down to the nanosecond and you still can't figure it out. But somewhere out there, they found something to overrule it, to overturn the call, and it was not a catch. I'm not saying anything's fixed or rigged. I don't believe in that stuff. Well, NFL, I kind of do. But as far as college goes, I don't know how you can tell me there was enough evidence to overturn the call on the field. If it was vice versa, it was called incomplete. They went to review. They couldn't find anything. That's fine. It was called a touchdown on the field. The ball never hit the ground. The guy hit the ground with the ball in his hand. And you found a way to overrule it to incomplete. I don't know. Quick, sneaky one here. So, Miami, as good as they are, Cam Ward, as good as he is, they have been turning the football over a little bit. Cal is the number one team in the country in interceptions and turnovers. And historically, Cal has given Cam Ward fits at his time at Washington State. Justin Wilcox and this defense, they know how to get after Cam Ward and kind of, make things uncomfortable and get him to turn the football over a bunch. I'm just saying, if they start turning the football over again like they did last week, you're going to get yourself into a dogfight. And I would not be shocked if Cal pulled off a stunner. Talk about that for a ACC after dark. Just doesn't feel right. Anyway, all right, moving on to our final segment of the day here. It's not the night. Best bets. We're 3-2 last week. On the season, we're 8-9. We are rolling right now. Back-to-back profitable weeks. If you hit the old best bets with me. But here's the 4 plays for this week. Actually, I got 5. Washington, -2.5. I love them. You get Michigan going cross-country. Quarterback issues are still quarterback is still an issue for them. Are they going to be able to run the ball effectively enough against a Washington defense that's so-so against the run? We'll see. I think Washington is going to be able to make enough plays at the quarterback spot. I think they're going to be able to score some points. This probably won't be the high-scoring game, but give me the Huskies. Clemson, -14.5. They're going to steamroll Florida State. Florida State stinks. There's no life in that team anymore. It's just been sucked out. It was left in Dublin. There's nothing left of this team. SMU took them to the woodshed this weekend. Clemson's going to do the exact same thing. Army is an 11-point favorite at Tulsa. Give me the Black Knights. We're rolling with the Black Knights. UVA -1. They get Boston College. I don't think Castellanos is back yet for Boston College, so give me the Cavaliers. And then Ole Miss, South Carolina, give me the under 53.5 in that one. This is going to be a lower scoring game. I said 30-17, so that's 47 right there. But, yeah, a lower scoring game. I think these two defensive lines are going to be able to control the tempo and pace of this game and control what happens. So, points are going to be at a premium for the most part. There will be plays to be made against both secondaries. Will they be made? So those are the best bets for the week. So, like I said, Washington -2.5, Clemson -14.5, Army -11, UVA -1, Ole Miss, South Carolina under 53.5. So that is all I have for you guys today. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the podcast. If you're new around here, welcome aboard. I keep saying it. I keep reiterating it because that's how important it is. If you're new around here, hit that subscribe button. It is free. All it does, it helps out the show, helps grow the brand to get us to where I know where we can get to. Trying to get to be one of the more well-known podcasts out there. Gotta keep subscribing though. So hit that subscribe button if you're a recurring guest. Find some people out there that are big college football fans and tell them to subscribe. They don't have to pay for anything. It doesn't impact their life at all. All it does, it helps the show out. So hit that subscribe button, like the videos, watch them. And if you're listening on Spotify, follow us there at College Football Talk with Hunter. And find me on social media at DeLauder Hunter, Instagram Hunter.DeLauder83. Week 6 is on the horizon. You can see it now. I will be in Athens, Georgia this weekend for Georgia Auburn. Cannot wait to be there. I have not been there since my sophomore year of high school. So it's going to be really exciting to get back there in the Classic City. But we got plenty of other games to look forward to. A lot of people think this is a down week in college football. There's never a down week in college football. This is as Josh Pate would call it, this is a potential volcanic Saturday. Be on the horizon for all the upsets out there, including the one I'll be at. Maybe Auburn goes in and wins. I don't think it'll happen. But You never know. You never know. That's why the game's played on Saturdays. So enjoy your college football Saturday. Actually, it starts Thursday, but enjoy your college football weekend. I'm back for week 6 recap next week. Like, subscribe, and share. See you next time. This is College Football Talk. Peace out.